So this week I wanted to talk about the film Megalopolis. Francis Coppola actually took a hit for this movie because it's flopped in box office. He was called the worst director. He was like so many negative reviews. He invested lots of his money in the project, and it all kind of went sideways. I feel really bad for him because the film is really good. Like there are so many great ideas intertwined in the film. However, I feel like he could have maybe added a little bit more of the like more understandable concepts and characters' journey, so to speak, so that normal viewer could understand it without any sort of like esoteric or psychological dive. So what the film is actually about is a transition from the old world to the new world. That's it. Like that's basically the whole concept of the film. He actually compares sort of America and Rome. He calls, like in the film, the world America. He calls empire, and I feel like it's not new. Many films play around this idea of sort of like one world government, just one sort of like empire, and everybody lives under that, and we all kind of just pawns in the game, so to speak. In Dune, for example, there is also the world, empire, emperor, all that. So it's not uncommon, and I feel like it's easy for our minds to digest. So that was a good idea. I feel like he says our American Republic is not all that different from old Rome. Just at the beginning of the film, and it's beautiful, right? It's sort of it somehow crosses with Hunger Games, because in Hunger Games they also use games, maybe not gladiator games, but Hunger Games, and it's still kind of there just for the entertainment, just to keep the audience, keep humans distracted from what matters. There is a concept of appetite for power, how men abuse power, how all corrupted we have become, how time of we're living sort of in a time of excess and greed. And I kind of that's why I've connected with the story, because I can correlate with that. Remember, there are scenes when the main characters are driving through the streets of, I don't know, Los Angeles, New York, whatever the city was, and they're like so much pain, so much destruction, and that's exactly where we're headed. But at the same time, even though there is so much horror in the world, there are so many people enjoying parties and like all that. It's not sort of like the idea of stop enjoying your life and just give everything up, but rather how people who have the opportunity to do that don't share it. So that's exactly what they mean by time of the excess and greed, because when certain people have more resources than others, they don't share it. They just take it for themselves. Well, anyway, that's an interesting concept. He sort of dives into this exploration of the world, the old world, where 1% of the population holds most of the resources. Everybody else is just like trying to survive on the outskirts. It's an interesting. Okay, so it's interesting. It's relevant. It's fresh. Everybody can understand that, right? Let's dive in a little bit more. So, nephew of a wealthy businessman, I don't know who he was, like conglomerate, I have no idea, but he wants to build a dream city for the people where everybody could be happy, free, connected, could learn science, could learn to master their minds, body, soul. Like, it's really beautiful, right? And he calls it sort of like utopia. And on the other side, where we get maybe not the government, but he was like a mayor, the government, the like people who are from the old world, and they're trying to grasp on this old way of things in order to just keep on living as they used to. So utopia somehow becomes in their minds, what's the word? Dystopia. And I feel like that's also true, right? It's like there are people who would hate for the world to change. They would love to hold on to whatever they have. So let's keep it at that. Okay, we have the different sides of the story. We have protagonists, we have antagonists. It all works, but there are so many brilliant ideas that I feel like Coppola could have maybe given a little bit more explanation about. For example, Julia meets Caesar, and they both can see the future. What they actually mean by that is they have a full control of time. They've learned to control their time, because artists control time. Because any person who studies esoterics, who has even done ayahuasca, like any trips or any dive into self, you know that time is just a construct. So there is no time, past, present, and future. It's all the same, right? In terms of like, that's how the universe works. It's all like a loop. But when you reach a certain level of consciousness, you supposedly can bend time. So, for example, you know how there is what's it called? Transgression. Meditation, that's called transgression, into the future or into the past. So you basically go into this trance, and through this trance you can travel to another timeline or dimension, whatever you like. So that's what he tried, I believe, to show there, that some people have learned this ability to travel through different timelines and take something from each of them, or to see where it leads, or to see learn lessons from the past, etc., etc. So as an example, there is a scene where Julia sees her father's desk buried in the sands of time, and I feel like that's so brilliant. That's how Coppola works. That's how he translates his ideas to the audience. He takes a concept and he shows it on the physical level, but it's not, because it's not explained through words, through like language or any other means, even like written words, whatever it could have been. He doesn't use it. He just leaves us, he leaves it to us. So when his father's desk is buried in the time, in a sense of time, it's actually a message of sort of, if you don't follow the change, if you reject it, if you defy the flow of time, you're going to be buried in it, because you cannot, like, that's the progress, that's just the flow of life. And it's sort of as if an apple tree would be like, you know what, I don't want the winter to happen, let's try and figure out how we can make summer all year long. It's like, okay, let's imagine it's even possible. Why would you do that? Like, that's not the flow of things. There are seasons, there is a change all the time. So there is a lot to be said about that, because it's like, you can still stay the same, you can stay stagnant, and if you run really fast, it's just like Alice in Wonderland, you have to run really, really fast to stay the same. There is a lot to talk about it, but he just kind of limited himself within the concept of time, and how you have to use your time, basically. Okay, so let's move on from the time. So some people learned to control time. There are actually just two people there who can do that, and it felt a bit weird to me. Like, how come? Maybe there are a little bit more, because it's like just one person who is trying to build this new city in Megalopolis and trying to bring all the people there. It's like, it seems a bit unreal, because like, even in this day and age, so many spiritual leaders and gurus and speakers and like whoever they are, it's not one person. Like, it would never have been one person. There are many people who are speaking different languages, living in different countries, and they're becoming leaders of the day for different people. And so that's one thing that seemed a little bit off for me. And another one is when these two characters meet, Caesar and Julia, they well, obviously they complement each other, but we're not sure how. So I would probably, again, as a scriptreader, if you yourselves are interested in scriptwriting, you could, always try and pick these moments, try to pinpoint what doesn't work in the script, or how could you have improved that, because try to stay sort of like objective towards any material that you watch or read. Well, anyway, they don't, even though they complement each other, we're not sure how. Like, I would have probably created like, maybe she knows or can do something that he can't, And so in this case, he'd be looking for help, or would be looking for a missing piece that she could bring to him. And so now, because of that missing piece, the whole picture is completed, and we can build Megalopolis, for example. So that's just one idea. I felt like it's still beautiful, because I mean, like, Julia becomes this symbol of change, and she literally acts as a middleman in between her father and Caesar, who is trying to bring this change to the world. So it's beautiful. I mean, the concept is still there: old world, new world. How we're gonna change? How we all gonna get there? I just want to say that maybe the well, anyway, it's it's a long story. Like, again, it's we're talking about spirituality. We're talking about esoterics. We're talking about certain abilities that were considered dead or impossible, whatever, right? I know people who are, like, even on the internet, so many people learn others how to move objects with your mind, like all this telekinesis and stuff, or like how to meditate, or like whatever you want. There is so much information out there, and I always felt like these people are leading us to the new world, and because they are opening up so many new things to us. But of course, if you don't know how to do that, you could be scared of that. You could still kind of be the person dragging the humanity into the other way. So it's always like, we're talking about which way would humanity go, and like how the resonance, Schumann resonance, does it mean we're going into the right direction and we're going to be in a new world soon? I'm like, it's just a choice. Some people will, some people won't. So we can all build this utopia, and I don't feel like, because in the film especially, the main character, the protagonist, he takes everybody and lets everybody join this city of, like, where you can you do all these magical things and be free and connected, blah blah blah, and united with nature as well, because right now we're uniting with technology, with AI, but in this world, supposedly, we're supposed to be honoring nature. We're supposed to feel each other. We're supposed to be communicating through thoughts, like whatever it is. And I feel like you wouldn't be able to join this new world unless you yourself, first of all, believe it's possible. Second of all, you desire to acquire these abilities. Well, anyway, I'm diving a little bit into the esoterics as well, but I feel like that's maybe why most people didn't get it, didn't understand the film, because it was way too, like, obscure, and because of that, it was like, I don't know. It's like, it does make sense, but I'm not sure that's what he meant. That's what it was supposed to be. Like the desk birds in the sand, like, what are you talking about? That's why most of the films, I'm not talking about like blockbusters like Marvel or something. I'm talking about like any film at all. They're trying to transition and deliver certain messages and concepts through more obvious topics, or more obvious characters, or more obvious goals for the characters, which is where it comes, by the way. If you are scriptwriters, you obviously know that Robert McKee, he invented the triangle of different plot types. We have arch plot, anti-plot, and mini-plot. Arch plot is basic action films, or whenever the protagonist has an outer goal, external goal, with, like, he's active, he goes for it. For example, James Bond films, or like even if a character, if it's a drama, it could be characters looking for someone, for his mother, for example, and that could be also arch plot. Mini plot is when characters are dealing with inner conflict rather than external conflict. So the goal is internal, for example, find peace, or love yourself, or be with someone. It could be anything at all. Anti-plot is the worst plot of all, because it's the most complicated, it's less understood, it's more criticized, because it's art house films. It's anti-plot, which means we don't have any plot, which means if there is no goal for the character, not external, not internal, then we're like, there is no central question. A character is not passive nor active. He's just going around doing something. We're not clear what he's doing. So it's like, it's almost like these art house films that should be really analyzed by people who know what art house films are. Anyway, that's just in case you were interested in script writing. But I also have 3 quotes for you to just close it off, because I felt like it's being repeated throughout the whole, not script, but like throughout the whole film. And it's really beautiful. So the first quote is, "When you leap into the unknown, you prove that you are free." It's just brilliant, isn't it? It's like, if you're doing just what you're told to do, or if you're doing what you've done before, or what other people do, blah, 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 you are, how can you know you're free? Because if you're not going into the unknown for you, not for somebody else, then how can you be sure that's your free will? Like, obviously that's always your free will, but what I mean by that is sort of, whenever you decide to go into the unknown, to do something that you've never done, to go somewhere, to move to another country, to see another person, to like whatever it is, and you do that of your own free will, you prove that you're free. You prove that you could have done the same thing that you were doing today or yesterday or the day before, but today you've decided to go a different path and to leap into the unknown. So that's why you prove that you're free. So that's the first one. The second one is, "But if it's our minds that can invent gods, and if from them flows such power, why can't we apply that power directly?" This one is tricky. So if you're really religious, I invite you to skip this part, because some people say that you cannot prove that Jesus lived. You cannot prove that Shiva lived. I mean, obviously it doesn't seem real. So because of that, spiritual people say that we ourselves invented gods. So the people wrote the Bible, the people wrote any religious text, and because of that, technically we invented gods. And if we created gods who are so powerful and from them flows such power, why can't we apply that power directly? Why did we create a creature and we say that, well, that only that creature can grant you something? And then, but I mean, it's still your creation. These gods are still your you know what I mean? It's sort of like this spiritual thing. So, and it's also I want to add a little comment here. When you know this quote, everybody says it, when you wish to be more peaceful or calm, or like, well, let's say here, like, if you wish to be more calm, the God doesn't give you peacefulness or calmness. He gives you something to irritate you so that you could become peaceful. Well, what actually is meant by that is, if gods would really have such power over us, and gods would grant us whatever we want, so you just have to go to a church, you just have to ask for something, you're going to be granted. If that was the case, then for sure gods would have given you calmness and peacefulness and serenity. But if you yourself are God, so it's almost like you're so powerful and you're asking the universe, sort of like, could you give me, you ask yourself, could you give me peacefulness? Could you please? It's like, the universe could just like give you opportunity to be that. So what actually is deep down under this well, sort of like lesson or fable, whatever you want to call it, is whenever you ask for something, that's like, you yourself can give it. You can give it to yourself. Well, anyway, I hope that makes sense. Just like, take what makes sense to you, leave the rest for someone else. So just, if you believe in your religion, like, forget about it. So let's move on. I will not let time have dominion over my thoughts. That's the last quote. I love it so much. And I feel like it represents beautifully how humans can live in the past or in the future and not in the present. So whenever we're like, oh, what's gonna happen tomorrow? Oh, how will my lecture go? How will I do this and that? And how will I pass the test? Whatever. We're given our thoughts the dominion. We're given the time and thoughts the dominion over us. So you have to master yourself. You have to learn to be more conscious of when you travel into the past, to the future, blah blah blah, because that's what, by the way, Vipassana does. Vipassana meditation teaches you to sit there and to allow your thoughts just to pass by instead of taking you on this adventure. So you actually become a master of your own thoughts, and you don't allow thoughts have dominion over yourself. So yeah, and basically they connect time and how it can take over whatever whoever we are. Yeah, I feel like those quotes are really beautiful, and the whole film, it's so like artistic, and the way it's filmed, obviously it's genius. I get it. I get why people hate this film, because it's not clear, because it's like, it's so like blurry. It's not crystal clear, and that's why people maybe not hate it, but having trouble figuring it out. So I hope after watching this, you kind of would get a little bit better idea of what the writer was trying to tell you. So yeah, I'll guess if you have any questions, you can send them in the comment section, and I'll see you next week.